Hello everyone, welcome to our today's meetup. So today's meetup is about integrating M-Pesa API with Flutter. So today we are going to have Lincoln Keronei share his insights on how to go about that. So first thing about M-Pesa, if you are new to it, so M-Pesa is a mobile money transfer service in Kenya. So the M stand for mobile and the Pesa is a Kiswahili word for money. So stay tuned and welcome to what Keronei is going to share with us about how to link M-Pesa with Flutter. Yeah, so Keronei is a system support engineer currently at Ministry of Health. So he's going to share his insights. Welcome, Keronei.
Thanks a lot, Mojo. It's interesting being here. I'd really waited for this, and I think we should get started. No? First, I'm going to do a quick intro for those who may not be familiar with the service. So I'll take you quickly through the whole service, how it works, and everything of that sort. And then once we are done, then I think we can dive into the code such so that we are on the same pages. Huh? So thanks. Let's get started. Here is on my phone. Okay. So with my phone here, I'm going to pick up on the service, and then we're going to see how it's going to go through. So we'd go to your settings. It's usually on a SIM toolkit. That is what we call SIM toolkit. Then on your applications, you select the service. So it has a number of options. This one, I'd really like to give a good ground for those who are not familiar with the service. So you've got a number of services here, from sending money to throwing the cash, buying airtime, and loans and savings. And so Lipa and M-Pesa, that's our main target, and then your account. So quickly, let's just give a shot with sending the money. So we'd send the money, you would input the recipient. So in this scenario, the service provider uses your phone number as your account number. So your account is attached to your phone number. So let's just proceed that. And then you say send. And then you put your amount. So maybe I can just give 10 for the amount. And then you put your PIN and then proceed. So from here, the service provider really discourages showing off your PIN, although it's a demo purpose, but really, let's stick to the rules. I'll show you the result. So once you've sent your cash, you'd go to the messages. So the first message here is cash this amount sent to this person, and then it has a timestamp, and then your new balance. So on the sender, this is the kind of the message they would receive. There's an alphanumeric code as the receipt, and then confirmed you've received this amount from this person, and there is a timestamp, and then your new balance. So that is the basic service for sending money. So we'll be asking maybe, how do I get the cash? How do I get hold of the cash? How do I add the cash to my account? We have agents, just like the bank agent, where you can deposit and you can withdraw your money. So slowly, let's proceed to the main business of the day. So what we're going to do is Lipa and M-Pesa with pay with the M-Pesa service. So this scenario is where you're paying to a business. You're not sending to an individual. It's what we call customer to business transaction. So that's the selection we would make. There are two services. You can buy goods and services, or you can go with a pay bill. Buy goods and services is a bit different because you do not have to specify your account number or the target account. For pay bill is what you're going to specify your target account. You also have the business number because you just do not pay to anybody else. You pay to a specific business using a special code. So we select the business number. So with this one here, you can proceed with the business number. I have a test one, but I prefer to save on time. I'll just show you the overall flow. So if you input the business number and then you proceed, the cash is transferred. When I say the cash, in reference of the Kenyan shilling or the cash, will be transferred to the business. So that's a quick overview. So I'll switch my screen to a quick demo. And yeah, here. So this one gives a good perspective of the flow from the user, that is from the customer. And so once the customer at the green dot, we're starting with the service, that is what we call the SIM toolkit. And then we have Lipa and M-Pesa service, and then we have that one. But I prefer we go with the flow, what I had shown you initially, so that you notice the whole flow, how it's going to be about. So as you select the service, you'll realize that there's a special flow. You select your pay bill, and then you put the business number from this side. The business number for testing purposes, I will take note of that as a 174379. So that's a test provided by test account provided by the service provider for testing purposes. We'll use that later. Your account number can be an 8-character kind of an alphanumeric where you can reference to which account are you paying to. And then, of course, you'll specify how much you're paying for the service or whatever it is. And then finally, you provide your authorization for the transaction, and then you receive a confirmation prompt. Would you like to proceed to pay this account, this amount of money for the account number? So you can stop. So for safety purposes or for any other, you just need to confirm, and then you have 25 seconds. So you can see the service charge is 00 for this limit. And then you've got the results on the user end. That is, you have a message sent to your phone confirming that you've sent this amount of money for this account number, and then there's a timestamp, and then you'd have your new balance. So you can there's also a limit on what you can transact within the day, and it's also quoted on your message. So that's the usual flow on the user side. But how about the back of the things? How are things happening? Here, we are going to split into 3 places. I've really tried to simplify these so that we can have an easy way of viewing things and digesting things. So we have the platform, and then we have the SIM toolkit proxy. It's just a proxy that stands between your platform and the M-Pesa processor. And then we have the customer on the far end. So for this scenario, the platform will be the Flutter, and then we'd have the SIM toolkit, of course, in the place. And then, yeah, so let's get started. So from the first arrow, this also goes with the timeline. So from the first arrow, you make a request from your app or from your platform, then to the processor. So the processor validates and authenticates the request. If it's really valid, it gives you an acknowledgement. Yes, this one is going to be processed, or no, this can't be processed. Then the next, once it's valid for processing, it's sent to the customer, where the user is prompted to provide their PIN for authentication purposes. The user responds with a PIN. We are on the third line from the customer towards the second line from the customer towards STK proxy. So once the PIN is correct, I've given an ideal scenario where everything runs smoothly as expected. That is, the user provides the correct PIN, the transaction is valid, and everything else that is valid. So once the PIN is valid, there's a request that is created, what we call customer to business, that is C2B. Once the request is created on the STK proxy, it is sent to the M-Pesa now. So all this while, you have to realize that it hasn't reached yet the processor for the M-Pesa payments. So it's just being about validation from the customer, from the proxy, and everything else. So once all is set, now we have a request being created. So it authenticates and then authorizes the transaction, and then completes the transaction processing. So when we say that, one, the user has to have the right amount. Secondly, the account has to exist, and all the other checks have to pass so that you can receive a successful transaction. So once the transaction is complete with a success, remember I quoted that this is on an ideal scenario, because if I would have added where there's a wrong PIN or there's invalid amount or anything else that is provided, you'll notice that we are really crumbling the whole thing. And then we have the callback with the results. first being sent to the STK proxy, and then the proxy delivers the results to your platform. There's also an SMS notification, short message service notification to the customer on a summary of the transaction, what I had shown you in the message. And yes, so that is it. Once you've grasped that, then it would be easy to process, because I realize there's a challenge talking about the callback, and that is what I really like to dwell on today. So let's take to the one step ahead and talk about Lipa and Mpesa Online. Remember, the other one was Lipa and Mpesa standalone, that is on the mobile phone, where the user flows everything else from selecting the SIM toolkit, selecting the type of the transaction, inputting manually the account number, the pay bill number for the business, and providing everything else up to the end. So we have like 6 to 7 steps the customer has to follow in order to make payments to your business. But for this case where we are using Lipa and Mpesa Online, it's being shortened into like 3 steps. So the developer, as you, would have to handle all the rest of the steps, so that the user would just receive a prompt like, yes, this is what you're supposed to pay to this account, to this business. If you are okay with that, or if you are in consent with that, then you can authorize with your PIN number. Remember, the PIN number is just the secret code special to every other customer, and it's really secret. The service provider advocates that you keep it, not even the customer care service should you disclose these to. So you can see from the arrow that jumps across, at the end, then the user would get a notification like what you saw on the previous end, where they get a message that is confirmed that this amount has been sent, and then your new balance is this, and such. Okay. So I'd like to do a quick demo, because I really don't like talking much. I'd prefer doing things. So of course we are on Flutter, and then I'd prefer the backend would run with Node.js. I'm not much of a Node person, but yes, we're going to give a try. I'd choose Firebase Cloud Functions for processing the backend, and then callback URL. And then possibly, if we get some more time, we can persist the data to Firestore. So let's get started then. So remember, if you have any question, you can just post on the chat section, and then I'll get to answer them. So I'll launch my Android Studio, and then I think from there we can proceed and create a new Flutter project. So I'm sharing my Android Studio in a moment. So as my Android Studio is starting up, I'm going to share my screen so that we can create a new project and run together here. Okay, so here's my Android Studio. So I'm going to give a random name, M-Pesa then demo. And then I'll change the folder to something else here. I'll create a new folder. So as it creates, hopefully the processing of the transaction was a bit enlightening, so that as we flow, we'll be at a better position to catch up. This one is going to take a moment. So the basic things are, once you have the correct flow, then it becomes very easy integrating. But the key thing is getting the concepts right, because once you understand how everything else flows, then even the code won't be a challenge at all. So I guess my screen had remained behind, but I've now shared the correct screen. In a moment, you'll be able to see my screen. Yes, so here we have the screen. So quickly, I'll try to add my font so that it could be easier for you people to see. Now, hopefully that is better. So as usual, quickly, you would like to make sure that it's up to date. And then, so for me, I don't think Kiva will really wipe everything. I'm not the kind of the person where I'd like to start from scratch. Save on time. There's no need to really write a lot of stuff out here. We can use the already existing code. So I'll wipe all the basic code out here so that we can have a clean start, but not as clean as such. So most of the things here, I'll just remove all these comments, this clutter here, and then I'll wrap this one here. And then possibly this one may need some materializing. And then we do some home. Remember to check on the brackets. Remember, the main business is not Flutter, but how Flutter would work with M-Pesa. So that's why I'm really clearing most of these things here so that we can have a good start. Yeah, I think we are almost clear. So we'll try to run and see how things are. So I'll see if I can share both my phone and my Android Studio. Let me just try that in a moment. Okay, so once I have my screen here, let me just confirm if all is set. So hopefully you can view my screen at the moment. Yeah, I think it's good. All right, so I'm going to run this one here on my phone very quickly. So it looks like I'll have to close this one and then restart to pick up my phone. Hopefully it picks up my phone this time around so that we can just get started right away. I think I can just close and restart Android Studio. So this is the phone that we're going to run on. So as we wait for Android Studio to begin, I'll see if there's anything else that had been installed. I think it's clear. So as my Android Studio is coming up, remember here are the steps. One, we're going to build a very, very simple app. And then once we have the app running, then we can try to integrate M-Pesa. Once M-Pesa is integrated, remember when we're talking about integrating M-Pesa, it's just much of initializing the transaction. Much of the business will actually happen in the background. Then we'll see how it's going to happen. Slowly, we're going to pick up with Node.js and then write some backend code. It's not going to take a while, some few minutes, and then we'll be up. So it's still loading. Once it picks up the phone, I think we can start. Yeah, I think it's coming. Let me just disconnect my phone. Back. So alternatively, as we wait, we're not going to sit here. Oh yeah, it's coming. I think it's here. So you can see this is a very clean app. Really try to remove the clutter. So let's run just to be sure that it's what we are expecting. Hopefully this is not going to take a while. And hopefully there's no error that's going to pop up. So remember, if you have any questions as we are moving, you can keep your questions coming and then I'll be handling them as we go by. So also, if you have challenges viewing the screen, you can let us know so that we can adjust the screen. Maybe it's overflowing on your end. I'd also wish to take care of that. That's why I'm really trying to minimize it into one place. So hopefully this is not going to take a while as it loads through the phone. We just want to be sure as we're waiting for that, we can talk about the M-Pesa Flutter plugin. So the plugin is developed on Dart, purely Dart. That is the choice we are going to use. So the Dart would possibly run on all the platforms that runs Flutter. Secondly, it doesn't do much other than initializing the transactions and then giving you the result. Thirdly, you only need to install it and start using it immediately. But the major work is how you're going to handle your data from the backend. That is the major work because you really need to keep a record of your transaction. It's not about starting the transaction and that is it. No, 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 no. It's going to involve more than that. So it's building on Xcode. Hopefully that's not going to take a while. So as we wait, I'll pick up with Flutter plugin. So you can search on your favorite search engine. M-Pesa Flutter plugin, current version is 1.0. So it's available, just take note of the name. So that's the choice we use. We have a number of them, really. You can try a number of them. But for this session, we're going to use this one. It has quite some documentation and a lot of references. We're going to see how we're going to initialize the keys and where are we going to get the consumer keys and such. We'll check that in a moment. How we're going to initialize the payment. And then, of course, once it's initialized, there's some few things you need to take note of. The response to expect and how to handle them. So these are the kind of the responses we're expecting. So I think The build is done, installing and launching. I think it took quite some time, almost 2 minutes, but I think it's coming up. Okay, so it has to do with permissions. iPhones are a bit sensitive with that, but I'm going to allow these in a moment. So you need to trust that before you can proceed. So once it's marked as trusted, then I think we can come back home and try to launch the application once again, but it's not going to take that moment to launch. This time around, it's going to be quick. So remember, we're not going to beautify a lot this app. We just need a skeleton where we can work our things out. And then once the skeleton is ready, then we can just use that. So from here, once it's running, I think we will include the plugin. Once we've included the plugin, we will head over to the service provider portal to get some credentials, and then we can bring them over to this place. Then we can use it. Remember to take note of the steps that we're going to use. So it's building in a moment. I'll be back once it's complete. So it's installing in a moment, and then it's going to run. Okay, so we have our app running finally. So we are not even going to test the tapping because we already ejected that. So I think we can leave this one at here as we go ahead and try to make some few integrations here and there. So this is set. Okay. So we'll stop this for a moment and then head over to installing the plugin so that we can see how we're going to get started. So let's be back to where we left. So these are the kind of the responses. We're going to walk through these ones in detail. It's important that you visit the references stated here, the API tutorial and the official documentations. So this is a much, I can say, like a third party from a developer. These are the official documentations. So that's where we come in to start. But first, let's install this. So you're going to grab this one here. I'll try to be quick a bit. Huh? So as that one is installing, it's very important to go through the README. So one, you have to include the package. Secondly, you have to initialize the consumer key and a secret key. And the consumer secret, we have the consumer key and the consumer secret. Those are two different variables. So remember, here is a test. We're using a sandbox. We are not going to use the actual running. because once you are live, the payments will be made to your special account. But here we are going to use a test account. So we're going to use the plugin to initialize a transaction. There are a number of variables here. We have the business shortcode, transaction type, which is an enum. We have the amount, of course, what are you going to transact? Party A and Party B, which somehow you can see that Party B will be same as the business shortcode. The callback URL is very sensitive. Most people really mix up this one. The callback URL is where the M-Pesa processor will send the final results to. That is your backend. That is not your your client device. That would be your backend. We have the account reference. This is what some people refer to as the order number, maybe in whatever the platforms they're using. We have the phone number. Remember when I was starting, I introduced that the phone number is attached to the account number for the M-Pesa. And then the base URI, it's going to determine whether you are on live or on sandbox, still testing around. And then the description, this can be empty really, it doesn't have to have anything. Then the passkey, for testing purposes, we'll have one. So all these ones pertains what I've just explained. So the documentation here is very sensitive. When you initialize a transaction from your client end, this is the kind of the response to expect when it's successful. But when it fails, this is what to expect. And then on the other end now, because it's going to send to the other end, you're going to notice that it's going to be sent to your backend, something of this sort. Once the transaction is successful, we're going to see this. And then if it fails, this is the kind of the response. So there are some few things that are constant. Let's just take a quick look. We have the body, we have the STK callback, and then we have the merchant checkout request ID, the checkout request ID, the result code, and then result description. The callback metadata is not common because you're going to see here, we have all those details and then the result description. So what you can rely on here is the result code. You can check that once it's in good state, then I think you can handle it. So hopefully it's done installing. Yeah, so we are good. So we can get started over because as I told you earlier, we're just going to do a quick copy paste and then fill up the details because there's something else where we want to see that would be of more interest than this. So I'd prefer we create kind of a future function. So you want to import this one. Okay, so at the end, I think we will do a return statement as it's requesting. So for the code here, I'm going to carry all these values very fast. Here, I want to be explaining because I already covered that. So I'd prefer to send over the amount. And then I'd also prefer to send over the phone number. So that we can differentiate these two. Let's get this one ready here. So this one, we're going to handle that in a moment. And then the account reference here, let's just keep it at payment. The phone number, we'd still use phone. And then we're going to copy this one in a moment. So the description here, just do demo. And then passkey will carry over from the documentation. So we'll grab the passkey here. So I think this one is a double. We had an issue there. Going to fix that. So the base URL, we're going to grab that in a moment. So we have two things to work on. That is the callback URL. And then, of course, we have the base URI. So let me take you over to the official documentation that is available here. So of course, you can see that it starts over in the authentication, but we are not interested in the authentication yet because you're already using a plugin. So we'd head over to getting started so that we can know where to start. When you sign up to the portal, you create your first app on Sandbox, and then you view your details, and then connect your API, then you go live. Yeah, those are the steps. So I'll just log in very fast, and then we'll create an app. Okay, so I'll add a new app here. So the name would be demo. I'll call it demo 1. So we do for testing, and then we'll create the app. So this one is what you're going to use so that you get your credentials. So here you have your keys, and then expiry and that, all that. You have everything you wish to have here. So of course, in the documentation, there's some few things that we skipped because we did not want to mention before we reached where we are heading to. So now we are almost there, but we don't have two things yet. One, the callback URL, and then the keys. So let's grab the callback URL from the test site. So we're going to input that directly to avoid a lot of searching around. So I have to use a scheme. So to make things easy, if you're not sure what you want to do, you can go to the example here. You can really prefer to copy what is ready. As you can see, this one has much of the stuff, but there are things that I'd prefer you be careful with. So for now, let's just use this one. Okay, so remember we are using on Sandbox. This is a test. So this being a test here, we want to get started by saving the keys here, where it's recommended. So remember to take reference from the documentation that we have on the plugin. These ones are required for initialization purposes. They are like the keys you would have. So because I don't like leaving everything bare open, I'll keep the keys somewhere else. So we'll grab this one from our app, so the consumer key. And then we also have the consumer secret. All right, and then we're going to import them here, just to be sure that we've saved that. Okay, so that is set. So we are one step ahead. We are done with that. Just to be sure, we'll get to test that in a moment. But first, let's streamline some few things here. One, we do not have the callback URL. And secondly, we have not handled the response. So possibly we'll handle the response here. So I would like to cast it into some kind of a hash. So I'd say so hash map result is called transaction initialization as hash map of string with keys, and then wherever it comes from, that is to be dynamic really. And then of course, if we have any other feedback that we do not know where it came from, we just print it because we are not sure how it's happening here. Let me get the screen in the right place. Okay, I think we are set to try a test. Let's print the results. So you may be questioning, so how are we running without the callback URL? Because we do not keep track of the response at the moment. We just want to dry run and see if it's really happening. But once it's happening, then I think we can head over to create a backend so that we can have a callback URL. So let's run and see this. So I'll just connect. I'll bring over my phone once more. Okay. So let's run this one very fast. So if there will be no error around, then I think it's going to be a quick one. I don't want to dwell any much more here because this is very basic. You can find it on the documentation. My main target is the backend, which I'll show you in a moment. And then, of course, we have to initialize. I'm almost missing that. So let's catch that here. So as you press this one, we can have these. So the first one was amount, which was a double. So I'll do with 10.0. And then the form, I'll use my form. So it has to be in international format, that is with a country code, and then your phone number. Yeah. So we have one last step to do before we close this session. We want to create a backend and then append the URL. And then we will watch the results come live. So since I'll need to rerun that, let me head you over to Firebase because I promised we're going to use Firebase for the backend. Hopefully I'm not mixing you up. This one is going to be very quick. So I'm not going to add a new project. I'm just going to use an existing one. I'm sure you know the steps to create that. So we'll accept all the defaults here. So ensure you have a running app. So take note of the name, the running project, that is, take note of the name. We're going to use that in a moment. But first, let's also head over to Cloud Functions. All right, so here we are. So we have quite an explanation here, but we want to get started right away because of time. We're not going to read any of these. So we've already created a Firebase project. The next step is to set up Node.js and a Firebase command line interface. So for me, I've already installed this one. I think we have the app already coming by, but we'll need to rerun because we made some other changes. So I'll stop this and then we'll also rerun again. So take note of the steps. 1, we integrated the plugin. 2, we made the initialization code. And then 3, we are heading over to set up the backend. That is, we're going to be done in the next 10 minutes. So we only need to see the response on the backend so that you can understand how the callback URL works. And then I think from there, you can just handle from the JavaScript. You can handle on your own. So I've reloaded. Hopefully, all went well. So we really could have changed this plus icon to something like pay, maybe. I think that would be better. Let's reload and see that. Okay, yeah. So since we did not add anything like loading or such, we just have to be patient and wait for the feedback from the terminal. Run window. So I'll click pay on my phone. Ouch, we have an error here. So let me fix this very quickly. So I'm going to fix this very fast and then we can move over. So I think there was an exception. Let me just confirm if I have internet connectivity on my phone. And yes, it looks like I don't have. Okay, so I think the error came here because I did try to cast this one here. So let me just have a var, so we can just print the results straight away. So let's just do that. I think that would be easier. I think we're already printing here. So let's just do transaction initialization. Yeah, that's better. So hopefully this time around it's going to work so that we can proceed very fast because we have less than 10 minutes. Is this really hot to reload? Looks like we are missing something. I'll just stop it and then run afresh. Hopefully this is not going to stall. I will head over very fast to complete all the steps. So once you've installed Firebase command line tools, make sure it's the latest, and then you need to initialize your project. So you run Firebase login and then Firebase init Firestore, Firebase init functions, and then there's a project structure here. And then we import the required modules and initialize the app. I'm not sure if you can see my screen. Let me just make it bigger kidogo. Yeah, I think that would be better really. So I'd redo this one very fast. You need to log in, and then you need to initialize Firestore. If you're going to use Firestore, that is. And then you're also going to initialize the functions. If you're going to use the functions, which is what we want. So this is the structure. We have your project, we have the setup here, and then the JSON containing the properties of your project. We have the functions. Our interest here really is index.js. And then we'll import the required modules, and then yeah, we'll just print. We won't do much. We'll just print the response. So let's watch this as it completes very fast. So remember, if you have any queries as we are completing, and then we'll be doing a quick recap, you can post them. So as we're waiting for this one, I'll launch my terminal, and then I'll start setting up. I think this terminal is quite small. Let me just add up. Yes, now this looks better. So our app is launching in the background. We should be able to see the results in a moment. But in the meanwhile, we won't sit and wait. I think we can get started right away. So I'll navigate to my documents. Maybe I'll make a directory demo Mpesa functions. Okay, so we'll be back here. Let's check what is happening here. So I'll tap on pay and see what's going to happen. And then we have some results here. So we are expecting a prompt from the form. Oh no, we have an error. We have an invalid callback URL. So we'll head over to use a sample one very quick. But remember, this one won't work. Be sure that we're just using these for the purpose of getting over. But that is our next step. We want to create our own callback. I really don't like scrolling over, so possibly I'll expand my Android Studio so that you can be able to see everything. I don't like scrolling back and forth to the left, to the right. I think from here, yes, I think we can see the whole bit. Yes, I think all the lines are visible. And then the application did restarted. So I'm tapping on pay. Then finally we have a prompt on our form. So for this case, I'll just cancel, and then we're going to get our callback URL, and then we implement it, and then we'll be good to go. So let me cancel this one. So we have the canceling request, and then we're done. So I'll cd demo. So I'll be copy pasting the functions very, very fast because I realize we are out of time already. So I want to do login because I think mine is already set up. I don't think also if I'll do init Firestore, we want to be using Firestore, we want only functions. So let's first initialize everything. Oh yeah. So I think this one will be okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have quite some few options. Once it's launching, so it's saying, do you really want to use an existing project or create a new one? So of course we had an existing one. So we want to deal with one option here. So I'll do with mobile demo. I'd like to do JavaScript. Yes, linked, sure. You want to install dependencies now, sure. So hopefully you've noted the steps we have made. One, we are able to initialize a transaction from our client app. Secondly, we are heading over to create a backend. Once we just seen the response on the backend, we are done. We are not going to implement any much further because we are out of time. So this won't take much time. I think it's almost finishing up the first step. So the main reason why I'm using Firebase functions is because it's easy to set up and we don't need much stuff. We just need to make some initialization and I think we can just deploy the apps. Yeah, looks like the initialization is complete. So I'll launch my VS Code. So I'd open a folder. Then on documents, I'd use functions 1. Okay, so here we have index.js. So this is very basic. We'll wipe off all this, and then we're going to use the documentation here. So we're going to copy something we call add message sample. So the add message receives any response that is sent either via post, get, or anything else, and then it will handle it. So we'll digest it as we are pasting it here. So we'll rename this one to receive callback. So once we have that, I think we'll, I prefer we wipe all these ones for now because we are not really interested. We just want to log and see that we have some feedback that on your end, I think you would be able to persist into your database. So we'll check out to body, and then I'd prefer we skip to the body. The main reason I'm using 2 bodies is one, the request body, and then on your documentation, you'll notice that there is a body on the feedback. Looks like my screen is overflowing. So on the README, you'll realize the response we are expecting has a body. So it has a body. So this is the reason we are saying we want to access the body. And then we'll just log that. Once we are able to print, we're good. And then we'll say log. Then received response. Here we go. Then we can say original. So remember, it's your duty to process the kind of the response you will receive, and then you can persist to your backend. So you have to put something onto the request so that you can know that the feedback, so that the function can be terminated. Otherwise, you would run into a timeout. So for this one, the processor, the M-Pesa processor really doesn't expect any feedback from you. So it's up to you. So it's very simple here. We are receiving the feedback and then we are logging it onto our console. So that is it. So I'll just minimize this and then we'll deploy that function. So getting started. So once we are ready, we will deploy and then we will have our callback URL. And then we will watch to see if there'll be some feedback. Here you can do some tests, but I'd prefer we really deploy it straight away because we just want to get the callback URL. So I'll remove the $sign so that we can deploy straight away. So hopefully there'll be no error around. Just a quick view. So this is a very simple one, just to be sure that you know when we talk about a callback URL, this is what we are expecting. Hopefully we haven't left out anything on the usage, because we are not saving anything into the database, we are just executing the feedback. So for these ones, I think we left out something here. Let's see. So the functions are well set. So I think that's okay. So let's see the feedback. So we have an error, billing account not set. So we'll use an existing one already. I'll switch over to an existing one, but the steps are the same. So I'll close this one and then I'll open a recent one that I've already done. So remember, I'll attach all this code to a GitHub account and then we'll share on the description or somewhere else. Looks like it's taking us back again to the same place. So very quickly, let me just open that and then we'll deploy and then I'll show you. Or really, we can grab one. So that's the step really. So I'll just grab one that I already done initially. So from, but those are the steps. So I'll grab this one here into new window. So we just want to grab the callback URL and then I think that would be set. So what to expect is something of this sort once you fire that. So we'll copy this one and then we'll use it on our project. Yeah, so we'll run and then I'll switch over to what we need to be able to see that. So I'll switch over to the project that we're using, that one. So it was this project here. And then we'll move over to functions. So just to be sure that we are dealing on the same thing, I'll launch whatever we have in question. So it looks like it's not opening up, but we'll just run and then we'll watch the response on the backend. So we are moving over to the backend so that we can watch the response on the logs. So this is what you expect on the functions. You have a dashboard of all your projects. The reason why this one is kind of orange is because Node.js 8 is being deprecated. So let's get to the logs and then we'll watch the response. I'll attach all this code to somewhere you can access it. Then I think that would be it, really. So I'm not sure if I can clear all the logs. Yeah. So we'll be watching any new response here. So let's run the app. And we bring over this one here. And yes, finally we are getting done. So once this build is done, we'll watch the response, and then that is it. So this is the code that I have written initially. I've been working on, so I'll just show you what we will be expecting. So once M-Pesa sends the feedback, it will trigger something called payment callback, which is what we've added. And then we will log the response with a prefix of received. So we'll be watching over for anything received. And then the next data will be the data from M-Pesa processor on your backend. So just to show you how you're going to deploy, you'll do Firebase functions. Hopefully this one won't be annoying a bit. If it goes through smoothly, then I think that would be okay. But remember, I'm just showing you how it would have happened, but we've already copied this one to there. So remember, you do not have to give the path. You can attach everything here, but I usually prefer to have, then we get your path somewhere here, just to be sure. So you can have your path, you can have your host, and then your path. So that would be easy, but if you prefer to just merge them, there's no problem as well. The response would be accepted. As in the URI would be accepted and the response would be sent. So I'm closing up everything in a moment. And I think we are done. Once this one runs, just watch the response and then that is it. So it's installing and launching. So the deploy is complete on the other end, although it has some warnings, but this one is okay. So we are not really interested here anymore. We've already moved on. So what we are interested are two things here. So one, we are going to simulate a payment. Looks like we have an error already. Let me just see that. So I think there's something we missed here. Oh yeah, here. So we have our backend, and then we have everything. Tried calling get message on something that is not. Oh yeah. So it's saying there's no such function, but we're going to fix that in a moment. So let's see if that is going to get us going. Yeah, so I'll just clear these very fast. See if we can get some. Oh. So I do not seem to get what is happening here. Maybe I'll just remove this filter here because we are expecting some response, but we are not handling it. So let's see if that would be better. So what did we really change here? You have the URI here. So we don't seem to be fixing this one out here. So I'll grab from an existing one the same thing, and then we'll see how we're going to work about. So I'll move. Hopefully this one is going to give a better response. So let's try with this. So I'm grabbing the passkey immediately. And yeah, so that should be fine. So I think we are basically done. So that is it for the day. That's all from my end. I don't think if I'm going to force it to run. So, but that's the procedure. Remember, one, you initialize on the client end. Secondly, you create a backend. And then thirdly, you create an account on Safaricom portal. And then you link them up. So the live process is going to involve something we call going live, which is a bit different from what we are using. So for this case, I think we are done. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to run it, and then I think it has its own issues here. The usual case. But thanks so much. That is it from my side. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Keronei, for the presentation. We are grateful for it. So I guess this is an introduction to how we can integrate M-Pesa API with Flutter. So we are going to share the GitHub link and the session recording in case you want to revisit. But early next year, we promise to have like a deep dive session for the same. So I hope you'll be ready for it and feel welcome once again. So thanks so much for joining. And Keronei, maybe if you can answer maybe one or two questions we had from the chat. So
sure.
we had one question. Someone want to integrate the M-Pesa Daraja API in Magento. So is this possible?
It depends if there's already written procedures for the same. But today we are really much handling of Flutter. But given that there's a way which can be interfaced with another language. I'm not so sure about that, so I won't give a yes or a no for now.
Yeah, but since I'm Link, I think it's possible, but it's a matter of checking it out and exploring more on it. So quickly enough, we'll go to the next question. Is this integration possible with Flutter for Web? The integrating the M-Pesa Daraja API with Flutter for Web, is this possible?
Yes, sure. We've done on an iOS device, and I think given that it's cross-platform, the same steps are going to be taken. It should be working on the web, and it works. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's all for now. And within the resources, we will also share the package you build on of M-Pesa with Flutter. So we'll share it. Do you have anything else to say at the moment?
As a parting shot, when I'll complete this project and then it will be shared, I'm giving out the link just right now. So I think here's the link where you can get the complete project. It should be GitHub. Let me just grab it right away.
Yeah, as you are doing so, could you please also answer this one question quickly? One person called Clinton was asking, could you consider SDK push?
Could we consider SDK push? Pardon?
Yeah, so that was the question. So I don't know if it's a skeleton question.
It's not so clear, but yes, the process we've been doing includes SDK push. That is, we're initializing from your platform. But if you're on web or any other place that is not on mobile, then it's just going to work the same because the processor, the SDK proxy, is going to initialize the transaction on the SDK. And that's what we refer to as the SDK push. I'm not sure if that's the question.
Yeah, I think it's not clear to me too,
It's
but
not
I
very
think
clear.
you've answered it in appropriate way. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you everyone who joined in the live. So feel welcomed to join our next meetup, which will be on November. So we'll communicate about how to join and everything. So me who is speaking, I'm Josephine, an organizer for Flutter Kisumu. So thank you so much and feel welcome in our next meetup. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.